Okay, Streetcars of Fargo Moorhead. Even though we're the Minnesota Streetcar Museum, we do North Dakota, and that's largely because most of the streetcars in North Dakota also crossed the border and ran into Minnesota. So the Fargo streetcars went into Moorhead, which had really an equally big system. So that's why we're covering it. And this is the Fargo side of the system. Um, they had a little, this is downtown here on Broadway, and their major transfer point was right down here at Northern Pacific Avenue and Broadway. And then from there, they had a line out to Oak Grove. And I believe the way it worked was that this line, which went up towards the state fairgrounds, ran separately. And then I think this loop line ran. And I know that the loop line on the south end, cars, there was a clockwise car and a counterclockwise car, and each one ran every 15 minutes. I think the whole system ran every 15 minutes. And then over here, we'll have a separate map for Moorhead, but the streetcars went and crossed the Red River to get to Moorhead. And so, as with most of these small systems, almost the entire fleet was little single truckers. I mean, this is really the same kind of thing as a car 78. There were differences in these depending on the manufacturer, but it was a pretty standard kind of a deal. This car is on the South Loop. That's where St. John's Hospital was, maybe still is. And they got a lot of secondhand cars from Twin City Rapid Transit, which Brian documented in his article in Twin City Lines, and this is one of them. Destroyed in 1920. And all the wire stuff and gates on here, that was all put on by Twin City Lines. And so
that car was a single trucker, by the way.
Yeah, they had lots and lots of these single truck open cars in Minneapolis. So this is Broadway. This is the Northern Pacific Tracks, which is kind of the south end almost of the main business district. The Great Northern was up here sort of at the north end. And this is their main transfer point at Broadway and Northern Pacific Avenue. This is the Northern Pacific down here. And so we get a lot of pictures. Whenever there's a postcard or something, it's always in here somewhere. So we have a lot of pictures that are kind of repetitive of this area. Now, they bought a bunch of ex-horse cars from Twin City Lines, and here you see them being used as trailers. And this was kind of common in the single truck era, was for, if you need a little more capacity, just, tack on one or two of these trailers. And here we are, we're on the south side of the railroad tracks. Come on. We're on the south side of the railroad tracks. And these are two cars that are on that south loop. This is the Y for the south loop. And then here we are around the corner. The Northern Pacific Depot is right here. And you're looking west. Now here we are back at the transfer point. And the cars would come in here from the different lines and would just sit here and take their layover here. And the passengers could transfer from one to another. And that's how they got everywhere. So here you see the motorman just relaxing, while they're on their break. Somebody just getting off one car, getting on another car. Pretty efficient if you wanted to get around the town. This is the same location looking east on Northern Pacific Avenue. The previous view was looking south on Broadway. Okay. And here you have some kind of an old streetcar body that's being used as a probably a combination information booth and office for the supervisor who was supervising the meets of all these cars. This is another, this is looking at the same spot. They bought a lot of used streetcars. They bought this one from, I want to say, Oskaloosa, Iowa. There was some common ownership between that system and this system, and they picked up these. And here you see a traffic cop with a manual stop sign. Here's the same scene at night. This is that same intersection, just a different angle looking north. And I ran this one whoops, man, this thing keeps jumping on me. Just a minute here. Come on. I ran this one on the back cover of Twin City Lines. This is, I think, at the end of the Oak Grove line, and Black's ladies' wear store was a women's wear store right on Broadway, and this is their annual picnic on the 4th of July. And they've gone and chartered this, and you can see everybody's all decked out.
So they're having Christmas in July?
I don't think they're having Christmas. I think it's just a 4th of July celebration.
Over by the band, they looked like some Santa hats.
No, well, this guy's got a dunce cap, and I think this is just, I don't think it's a Santa hat. I think it's something else. Now, what these ladies are all wearing was, they're like store clerks. And, in the 20s, they had, or around World War I, they had these little hats that you'd wear in the store. I don't know how you describe them, but this was kind of a standard thing if you were some sort of a clerk. So in the 1920s, they went and replaced all their cars with Birneys. They got rid of all their conductors and doubled their service. What they did is they didn't get rid of their conductors. They converted them all to motormen and went from having a 2-person crew on a car to having 1-person crew, but used that savings to go and double the service from every 30 minutes to every 15 minutes. Here's Black's, by the way. You can see it up here. So this is them building one of the lines. It's interesting that the track is kind of pre-constructed with steel ties. And this is probably out at the very north end of the line, up by the college. And this is headed out at the very north end of the line. They went to the state fairgrounds for a while. Here's their little plow. A nice little cute little thing. Got a little wing plow on it. And here's the plow and their big sweeper working away on Broadway. And here's the little plow, and they had this one flat car so they could haul livestock up to the state fair. And this roller here, which you can see is weighted down with rails, all I can think of was that this was for rolling on dirt streets, or if they had to pave the area, if they had to asphalt it, they could roll it. And here's their sweeper that's acting as a little locomotive. So here's one of the Birney cars. They bought a bunch of them, and then the one that we have is number 28. This is 26. Number 28 was purchased in 1923, about 3 years after these other guys were purchased, because they opened up a line to Concordia College in Moorhead, and they needed one more streetcar. And now, by this time, in the later years, it was being run by Northern States Power. And that's a Northern States Power logo. And so one of the things, if we ever get around to restoring this car, this logo we can get. And it's like green and red.
So what color is that car? Do you know?
The color, it is kind of it's kind of a pale yellow, and you'll see that when I've got a little movie clip on the back end of this presentation. And so it's this is kind of a brown stripe, and then the windows, of course, are brown wood. But it's kind of a pale yellow. It's not Twin City Lines yellow. It's a little more yellowy orange. I don't know. You'll see it in a little bit. Here's a closer view. This is running on the South Loop. And here we are back at the transfer point with all the Birneys. It's about 1920 in this view. And this is just south of that. They crossed the Northern Pacific Railroad tracks here. And I'm not quite sure where this is. Okay, so now we're going to work our way over to Moorhead, and here you can see the Red River Bridge. This car is coming off the bridge into Fargo, and there's the bridge itself at an earlier age. And this kind of Moorish confection here, I'm not quite sure what this was on the Moorhead side of the river. Here's another view of the bridge. And the reason there was all this protection here is that there were steamboats still running on the river. Another view of the bridge from downstream. So here's the Moorhead. And this is the middle of, this is Front Street here is the main commercial street. So you have the line over to Fargo. You have the line to the State College, what is now Moorhead State University. This right here is the line to Concordia College that was built later. There was a line up the north side, and then you had this long line to Dilworth that ran through open country. And Dilworth was the railroad town just east of Fargo, where they had the big railroad yards and the division point for the railroad. That's why they built it. So here we are, just on the Moorhead side of the bridge. Once again, here's that kind of interesting looking structure.
Road needs some rolling.
Say what?
Looks like the road could be rolled.
Yes, you could use it. And this is
that interesting bill. If you can go back here, and that interesting building on the left is up on top. It says the Ratskeller.
Yeah, how about that?
So, yeah, that's where you get your good German beer.
There are probably a few Germans up there. And so this car has come from Fargo, and it's turning onto Center Street or Front Street. I think the main street in downtown Moorhead. This is that same location looking east down the main street. And by the way, O.E. Flanton Photographers, he's the one who took a bunch of these things. Commercial photographer. This is once again the same corner looking east later on after the street was paved. This would be about 1918 or so. And this is a view. The streetcar is on that Center Street, but you're on Fifth Street looking south across the railroad tracks at one of the Birney cars going by. And this is the shoe hospital over here. That's kind of cool. And so this is where the line down to the colleges came in to Center Street. We have some kind of a parade. Look, these people have these kind of pointed hats on too. So maybe that was a 4th of July thing. Here's Waterman's Ladies Ready to Wear store. And whoops. And what I like here is the classic Woolworth with the embossed 5 and 10 cent store numbers. I remember Woolworth stores that had those numbers on them and the letters. Another view of one of the Birneys. And this is down kind of on the east end. And I think we have a couple of views that from about the same angle. This one looks to be, no, that's not the same building. Let's see. No. Well, it's hard to tell exactly which building is which. Now, kind of a blurry view out in one of the neighborhoods. And here's the Moorhead Normal School, which became the State Teachers College, which became Moorhead State University. And so this would be about 1910 or so. And the streetcars ran right all the way into the campus. And then later they went and cut them back to the entrance of the campus. So the campus is off to the right. And here they are building the little line to Concordia College. Here's a transfer for the Dilworth line. And here they are building the Dilworth line out through open country on the east side of Moorhead. And for
Dirt
Dilworth,
ballast.
pardon me?
Looked like dirt ballast.
Yeah, I think that's all they bothered with. And the Dilworth line, their only double truck car, they purchased used from Philadelphia for the Dilworth line. And I think the reason for this capacity is I think a lot of railroad workers lived in Moorhead and Fargo and rode out to Dilworth to go to work. So they needed a bigger car.
Auto drivers, please remember streetcars can't dodge.
That's right. Good advice to this day. So anyway, the Dilworth car had an altercation. It had to cross a railroad track and it got hit by the Great Northern. And here's a view out along the line, and this is late. This is 1937, shortly before the whole thing shut down. And if you go out along here today, there's a power line that follows where the streetcar went, so you can see where it was. Yeah, this is, speaking of tornadoes, this is the ballpark, which was out along the Dilworth line, and a tornado took it down, took the grandstand down. And I think this is probably short for Moorhead. I don't think they're just saying move. Okay, so then I never put a film in here, but here is that little thing. Look at the color of the car here, Jim. There you see it.
You're muted.
And I'll go back and you can see it one more time.
That's nice.